Subscribe now to Seahawks Today for never-ending Seattle Seahawks coverage of your favorite team, whether it's live shows, watch parties, news, rumors, breaking news, and everything in between. You know we got you covered here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now. What are you waiting for? YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Never miss a moment of the latest happenings with your favorite team. Turn on notifications as well at YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Welcome into Seahawks Today, Rumors Mailbag Edition. You have questions, I have answers, and we will get to them, folks, to see what you have in mind. A lot to react to as we are just over a week away from the Seahawks kicking off the season against the Denver Broncos, and the 53-man roster cuts have happened. We've also seen the waiver additions come through, so now let's see what you guys got. First question this week comes from Cool-Ass Dude Man. He writes in with a $5 super chat. Appreciate that. Hashtag Seahawks, shot time. Are we really rolling with Geno? Any chance the Seahawks make a play at Minshew to see what he can offer? Lock/Minshew quarterback room. Cool-Ass Dude Man, I'm going to be real with you. The answer is no. I mean, think about this. Gardner Minshew. If the Seahawks really wanted Gardner Minshew, they could have had him months ago. A long time ago, they could have had him. And ideally, if he was your guy that you wanted, you could have brought him in, gone through training camp and everything in between to see if he fits or not. Ultimately, they didn't. They paid Geno Smith to bring him back. They made the trade. They brought in Drew Lock. And that's what they're going with. They passed on Baker Mayfield. Jimmy Garoppolo, they ultimately did not make a trade for. I give them slack on that. I would not have paid Jimmy G $26 million. And so Gardner Minshew, no, that's not happening now. They're going to roll with what they have. Geno Smith's going to start. If he struggles, then we'll see Drew Lock at some point. But that's how things will shape out for now anyway. But thanks for the question. Next one comes from Chaston. Chaston says, hashtag Seahawks, will we draft a quarterback next year if we don't do good? Yes. In fact, I think that there's a pretty good chance, even if things went relatively well for the Seahawks, that they would be drafting a quarterback next year no matter what. And next year's quarterback draft class is much better than this past year's quarterback draft class with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud and Spencer Rattler and Will Levis, just among others, just the few that come off the top of my head of those names there. But with the Seahawks, you have 2 first-round picks because you get yours and you get Denver's pick next year. Have to think that one of the two will go towards a quarterback. If not, packaging both to even move up and get a quarterback next year. But I would pretty much bank on that the Seahawks are going to get a quarterback in the first round in next year's draft. And this year, you passed on the quarterback position in the draft, but you took care of the second most important position, the left tackle. You got that with Charles Cross. He's going to be your starting left tackle for years to come. Now you got to take care of that quarterback, find your next franchise guy. I think they're going to shoot for that in this next draft with getting, hopefully, either C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. Next question from Brady wants to know, inside linebacker depth move ideas. Very good question as far as depth goes with this inside linebacker group for the Seahawks, because there's not a whole lot of depth right now, realistically, with this group. When you have Cody Barton there and Jordan Brooks as those guys, and then Nick Bellore, your fullback / linebacker, is there as well. But that's really it right now for this group. So if there's an injury or something, then you're going to have to turn to what you have on the practice squad or free agency or something. And at this point in the ball game, there's not any options realistically when it comes to free agency. I think that what you're going to go with if you're the Seahawks is what you have in your practice squad, that you'll promote one of those guys there, one of those guys in the linebacker spot that's already been in your system at this point. I don't see them going out and getting a big-time, inside linebacker, making a signing of some sorts or making a trade unless we see Jordan Brooks get injured early on. If it's an injury where Jordan Brooks is out and he's going to be out a long time, I don't see them making a move. But realistically, I think your best bet for the Seahawks is to rely on the practice squad as far as I'm concerned. Rick wants to know, are the Seahawks tanking? I hate to sound this way, but unofficially, yes. I mean, I don't like that term, but here's what it is. It's the rebuild process, right? It's, okay, you are closer to the bottom than you are the top, okay? And so the Seahawks, you could put some Band-Aids there. You could find some guys that could get you a couple more wins here or there, but are they going to be the difference between winning a Super Bowl or not? No. And so that's where the Seahawks have found themselves with this team is, hey, they're going to ride with what they got. They're going to let the young guys develop, and hopefully it'll pay off down the road. I like what this team is doing, setting themselves up for their future, but it's a long road ahead. It's not going to be an easy process. This year could be a painful year for the Seahawks. Hopefully there's some high moments here and there from time to time, but realistically, folks, it is closer to a tank than it is of this team being a contender at this point. That's just the reality of it. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. So, yes, I would say if you made me pick, the Seahawks would be considered a tank team for 2022. What say you, though? Our pinned comment today. Let me know. Are you on Team Tank? Do you believe in what the Seahawks are doing? Do you like this? Type Y for yes. Type in for no if you're on Team Tank or not. Let me know in the comments section. Y for yes, in for no if you're on Team Tank. Let me know. Another question coming in from Daniel. Daniel says, hashtag Seahawks, will Dallas win the running back one position because of injuries? I would say not in the immediate future. I think that there's a good chance that we see Rashad Penny back week one. It looks like everything's on track there, that he should be fine. Rashad Penny, I don't know when we'll see him back necessarily. The team is hopeful that he's back week one, but nothing is guaranteed. And Travis Homer has still played very well throughout the preseason. It's a good group. DeeJay Dallas, I would be shocked if he's your running back one when the season begins. He could be your starter later on in the year if something were to happen to Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker, but God forbid, hope that doesn't happen, that the Seahawks don't find themselves in that situation where they have to turn to DeeJay Dallas as their starter. It's not a knock on DeeJay Dallas, but you have really good backs in Rashad Penny and Kenneth Walker III. You would hope that those guys are good enough health-wise that they are your guys leading your team going forward. So for me, that's what I'm looking at. I'm hoping that it's Penny and Walker, and then everything goes okay from there. I like DeeJay Dallas, but he needs to be your third down back or rotational back of some sorts, not necessarily your starter. Dat Fat Rat wants to know, do you think since the Seahawks didn't keep any inside linebackers, they could make a trade for an inside linebacker? So that's a good question. Going back to what we kind of talked about earlier with the inside linebacker spot, I don't see it happening. I think if they were going to, they would have done so by now. I think that they're going to go with what they got, and then if something happens, they'll promote from within, that they'll go with one of their practice squad players to potentially get one of those spots. It is bizarre that they're only carrying 3 inside linebackers at this point, but we'll see what they do. I don't see a trade coming. I think that they're going to play it by ear and see what the situations present themselves, quite frankly. But thanks for the question there. Today's show presented by BetUS, and BetUS offering a great deal just for Seahawks Today viewers. If you go to chatsports.com/bet and use the promo code Seahawks125, they're going to give you a 125% deposit bonus. So you may be asking yourself, well, what does that mean? What is a deposit bonus? Let's say that you were to buy a pizza. They are going to give you an extra pizza and a slice on top of your regular pizza for free. It's quite the deal that they're offering there at BetUS just for Chat Sports viewers. And here are the odds. Week 1, the Seahawks taking on the Denver Broncos. And I got to tell you, that bet is very intriguing. If the Seahawks is a 6.5-point underdog, I mean, you get 3 points for being the home team. So you're giving me 6.5 to work with? I might have to make this bet myself at chatsports.com/bet. Over-under at 42. Russell Wilson, I mean, there's going to be some points in this game. You'd have to think. I'd hit the over on this one. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Seahawks125 at checkout to get your bets in today. Next question comes from Legion OF. #Seahawks. Who do you think are the cornerstones for us moving forward? Oh, I didn't see the boom sign. Legion of Boom, of course. Who do you think are the cornerstones for us moving forward? It's a few pieces. For one, it's your starting left tackle, Charles Cross, who you spent the number 9 overall pick on, and that you are banking on is going to be solid for your future at that left tackle spot. You hope that he's your starting left tackle for the next 10 years. That'd be the ideal. Also, I would point to Kenneth Walker III. When you talk about rookies, that's a guy that should be an elite running back, I think, in no time, and should be somebody that your offense becomes dependent upon eventually. So those two guys I would be looking for as your quote-unquote cornerstones. Also, of course, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett as the veterans of that bunch on the offense for obvious reasons, and you're paying DK Metcalf more money than anyone else on the roster going forward. Defensively, starting with the veterans, I would go with Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, 2 Pro Bowl caliber safeties on that backside. Those guys are really good teammates as well. I would look for those 2. And then when you talk about the young talent on the defense, I think maybe he's not officially a cornerstone yet, but we'll call him one, I think, maybe even by the end of the year, is Boye Mafe for what he brings to the table. With the expectations from him, with as far as he's come on this Seahawks defense already, the progress that he's made, I think that he's going to fill that void. He's going to be, by the end of the year, a cornerstone piece for that defense, and as far as I'm concerned. But also Jordan Brooks, obviously, at veterans as well. He has got to be a cornerstone piece, second in the league in tackling last year. A lot of high hopes for him as he leads that defense. So, which young players would you want to build around? We know this Seahawks team has a good foundation. The foundational pieces are set. But what about this group moving forward and going into the future? I want to know from you guys. Which young players do you want to build around in Seattle? Give me a couple names. Let me know in the comments section. Which ones you would want to build around for your roster for the Seahawks going forward? Let me know. Wayne writes, #Seahawks, whose ego was too big in the Russell/Pete marriage? You got to show the love to Russ. I put more blame on Pete than Russell, wanting move on to a winning environment. You know, that's a very good question, because the core of the issues with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll came down to the run game, right? Pete Carroll wanted to run the football more and wanted to be a ground attack. Meanwhile, what we saw from Russell Wilson, obviously he wanted to air it out more, and that was a point of contention. I mean, you can go back to the days when Schottenheimer was around and everything with that. And so, with that being said, I would say that it kind of went both ways. Where I struggled with, though, was if this was a decision by John Schneider, if he was told basically pick me as in Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson, one or the other, he made the wrong decision. I would go with Russell Wilson if we're talking about longevity and for the long term. I don't know how much longer Pete Carroll's going to coach. But this marriage isn't what it was built out to be. It looks really good from the beginning, but ultimately it's probably best for each other that they were going to move apart eventually at some point, that it just was too much conflict there towards the end, that these two were not seeing eye to eye. So I guess ego-wise, I would lean towards Pete Carroll as far as the ego thing here. But in Russell Wilson's case, he doesn't go without blame either. So it's one of those deals where, okay, Russell Wilson was probably more right than Pete Carroll, but it doesn't mean that Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson weren't both wrong here. It was a situation that unfortunately did not go as planned, did not finish ideally, and you hate that it ended the way it did. Next question comes from Adam. Adam says, #Seahawks. What do you expect from the Seahawks defense for Week 1 versus Russell Wilson? I would expect a lot of blitzes, a lot of pressure on Russell Wilson. I think that this Denver Broncos team, with a new quarterback and everything, wants to prove that they're going to move the football, that they're going to be able to move it through the air and do what they haven't been able to do the last few years. So I would expect a lot of heavy pressure. I mean, think about this. Those guys on that Seahawks defense went up against Russell Wilson in practice for years, and Russell Wilson was wearing that red jersey and never got to be hit. And now all these Seahawks players, after all these years, where I'm sure they wanted to hit Russell Wilson, but they couldn't, finally get the opportunity to lay the wood on Russell Wilson, you better believe they're going to do that. So I expect some heavy blitzes, some penetration coming, and that they're going to be after Russell Wilson, and it's going to be an interesting show to watch. I can tell you that much. So, predict the score. Seahawks versus Broncos. Let me know in the comments section of how you see that game going. Another question coming in. Hey, Tyler, do you think KJ Wright will come back? He's asked fans if he can come back. I say only on second or third downs. I say put Jamal Adams at inside linebacker on third downs. No, KJ Wright's retired. He's not coming back. And we've seen the Seahawks already say to KJ Wright that they don't feel there's a fit for him in this type of scheme, that they want him around in a non-playing role. So that's what I envision for KJ Wright. Really good player. I know that you hear people like Producer Chugs is trying to tell me, well, Tom Brady came back. I mean, it's different, okay? I mean, it's an aging linebacker that doesn't fit this scheme. He wants to come back. He would like to play, but this decision's not up to KJ Wright. This is up to Seahawks management. They've made their case known. KJ Wright will be around, but he won't be on the field. But thanks for the question. As always, follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, at Tyler Jones Live, also on Facebook as well, talking about your favorite team each and every day on those social media platforms. Appreciate you joining us here on Seahawks Today. We'll see you next time.